Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and a very warm welcome to PTV World News. I'm Shehzad Qayyum with the top stories of this hour. Prime Minister Imran Khan expresses concern over increase in prices of essential commodities, directs to ensure stability in rates to facilitate the common people. Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi says India's belligerence poses a serious threat to peace and security in the region, urges the United Nations to press India for peaceful resolution of Kashmir dispute. Pakistan Navy and Japanese Maritime Self-Defense Force hold a joint exercise in the Gulf of Aden. PNS Zulfikar of Pakistan Navy and Japanese ship Onami participate in the exercise. International Policy Center for Inclusive Growth acknowledges Pakistan as one of the top-ranked countries in Asia with highest number of responses to social protection. Speaker National Assembly Asad Kassar says Pakistan has vast potential of investment in various sectors and invites European Union businessmen to invest in Pakistan. Roger Penrose of Britain, Reinhard Genzel of Germany and Andrea Ghez of United States won the Nobel Physics Prize for their research into black holes. Khyber Pakhtunkhwa beat Central Punjab by 29 runs in the 13th match of National T20 Cup 2020 in Multan. PTV Sports telecast the match live. But that's all for the moment. For more details and live streaming, log on to our website world.ptv.com.pk. You can find us on Facebook page with the name of PTV World and follow us on Twitter at WorldPTV. Thanks a lot for watching and it's goodbye for now.
अक्टूबर का महीना हर साल आलमी सतह पर ब्रेस्ट कैंसर की आगाही के तौर पर मनाया जाता है। हर साल लाखों खवातीन इस मर्ज की आगाही न होने की वजह से मौत के मुंह में चली जाती है। ये मर्ज आमतौर पर खवातीन में पाया जाता है। बर वक्त तशखीस न होने की वजह से जानलेवा साबित हो सकता है। अगर आपको सीने या इसके एतराफ में कोई गिल्टी या कोई तब्दीली महसूस हो तो फौरन डॉक्टर से रुजू करिए।
shall live in the valleys of heaven. The days we spent, the nights we cried, we wondered but knew not why. for God has sent us. Please don't torment us. Just her lonely, therefore shine. You can't retrieve us, so please believe us. Just her lonely, therefore shine. There will come a time when we shall laugh and smile into the sun. Our happy faces shall light the moon, and you'll know our battle is won. This world will end, so try and comprehend that no one lives forever. In the promised land, where no king will stand, we all shall be free together. The time will come we won't regret. All of nature's secrets that we've kept washed away by the rain. And those muddy tears will come from pain.
The ancient city of Taxila is the heart of stonework in Pakistan. This art, which has been preserved and practiced for centuries, can be seen on many major landmarks of the country. Notably, the Pietra Dura work in the Lahore Fort's Sheesh Mahal. These stone products take days to complete and require immense precision and skill from the craftsmen. The final product
Sanjian Ambassador Munir Akram is addressing the 6th committee. Let's take our viewers live there.
Four of major terrorist organizations like Al-Qaeda and ISIS, Daesh. Terrorism is manifesting itself in various new and mutated forms, which are not being effectively addressed. Pakistan strongly condemns terrorism in all its forms and manifestations. We have been the target of cross-border terrorism for decades. Pakistan has lost 70,000 lives and suffered over 120 billion in economic losses. Our people and our security forces have fought back with courage and coherence. we have achieved unparalleled success in defeating terrorism within our borders. Mr. Chairman, terrorism must be defeated comprehensively, everywhere, and in all its manifestations. To this end, first, a greater effort must be made to distinguish terrorism from the legitimate struggle of peoples for self-determination and national liberation. This is the long-held view of the OIC as well as the non-aligned movement. History reveals that such popular struggles for self-determination against colonial and foreign occupation have been often equated with terrorism. Yet, they have always, in the end, triumphed. Our neighbor, India, has sought to suppress the legitimate struggle of the people of Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir for self-determination for 7 decades. The right of self-determination was promised to the Kashmiri people by the Security Council and by India and Pakistan. The Kashmiri struggle cannot be suppressed by India's attempt to equate it with terrorism. Second, global terrorism has failed, the endeavor against counterterrorism has failed to address state terrorism. The suppression of self-determination and foreign occupation is the worst form of state terrorism. Since 1990, India's occupation has killed over 100,000 Kashmiris and widowed 22,000 women, and with 11,000 Kashmiri women raped. India's state terrorism has intensified since 5 August 2019. Kashmiri political prisoners are in jail, 13,000 youth have been abducted, collective punishments are being meted out, fake encounters are resulting in the killing of innocent young people, as admitted last week. Thirdly, state terrorism also manifests itself in the sponsorship of terrorism against adversary states. Today, Pakistan is the victim of attacks by terrorist groups financed and organized by India from across our western borders. Fourth, although every UN resolution states that terrorism should not be linked with any religion, the use of phrases like jihadis, Islamists, radical Islam give the lie to such protestations. When a crime is committed by a Muslim, it is immediately categorized as terrorism. When it is committed by a non-Muslim, it is simply a crime. Such Islamophobia is in fact state policy in the BJP-RSS-ruled India. Inspired by the Nazis, Hitler's Hindus, as they have been called, are embarked on the hate project of purifying Mother India from its Islamic legacy by forcibly converting and expelling or rendering stateless India's 200 million Muslims. Mr. Chairman, to eliminate terrorism, it is essential to address the root causes of terrorism: injustice, oppression, foreign intervention and occupation. My Prime Minister has urged the Secretary General to convene summit meetings to address the conflicts and address these root causes that are instigating violence and conflict all over the world. I thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Now, Pakistan's permanent representative to the United Nations, Munir Akram, was just addressing the UN 6th Committee and said Pakistan strongly condemns the terrorism in all forms and manifestations. Terrorism should be separate from genuine freedom. He also said India seeks to suppress freedom struggle of Kashmiris and Pakistan is victim of terrorism organized by India at its western borders. This was the update for now. We'll keep our views updated. Stay tuned for more.
book is life. Book is hope. And book is light for the future.
Hello and welcome to Politics. Today I'm Farrukh Pitafi. Once again we are going to talk about politics in this country, especially the politics of agitation that doesn't seem to be actually assembling itself the way it was expected to. Yesterday we told you that there are flip-flops on the opposition parties alliance PDM's behalf. Repeatedly we have seen shifting dates and venues. Now it is going to, the major rally is going to take place in Karachi on 18th. Remember, it started with the first date was actually 11th and now it has shifted, and it was supposed to be Quetta. Now it is not Quetta, it is Karachi. This is one aspect which is very important, and of course then this politics of blame game. On one side we have been talking about accountability and how accountability is shaping up in this country, but on the other side we saw an FIR being lodged against former Prime Minister Mian Nawaz Sharif and umpteen other supporters and party fellows in Lahore. It was a sedition FIR, and while the government since then has made its opinion clear that it doesn't actually believe in sedition or cases like these, and it was actually a privately lodged case, but then opposition keeps on blaming or complaining that maybe the problem is that without government's approval such FIRs cannot be lodged. We are going to ask about these matters also. Then I want to understand, how does the government plan to stop these political parties from marching on Islamabad, although the date is in the March date is somewhere in January, not in the winter, not at the start of winter. We are going to talk about all these matters and more. In order to help us understand these issues, we are joined by Arif Chaudhry Sahab, a senior advocate, also a constitutionalist, legal expert. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. Next to him is Javed Jadoon Sahab, a senior political analyst, a senior journalist. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program as well. We are going to be joined by a representation from PTI on Skype, I'm told. The moment he arrived, actually he is with us, Asim Shaukat Sahab, who is a spokesman of Punjab government, actually joins us on Skype from Lahore. Asim Shaukat Sahab, thank you very much for being part of the program as well. Before I come to you, let me ask Arif Chaudhry Sahab about sedition cases. Sir, what is the procedure of registering a sedition case against anybody?
Sedition case cannot be registered without the approval of the federal government.
Okay.
Yeah. But in this case, even if government says that, it has nothing to do with the case which has been privately lodged.
Right.
But, the problem is that, how government, a functionary, a police officer can act like that, and, how can the government say that, they cannot take the responsibility, because even if it is naturally, it is the station house officer who has to register a case, but if the law is not implemented and the cases are registered like that, so then who is responsible? Government cannot say this. And this claim of the government that it's a private person who has registered the case, I don't think the government can be absolved of the fact that,
Right.
Yeah.
But is there a possibility that there might be some kind of vacuum in procedure? Somebody actually thought that they can do it, a policeman, at a local level?
If he thought that,
yeah,
that's the problem. Because, the policeman is not supposed to think like that.
Right. And yet we have seen many things in Pakistan. For example, we have seen model town operation as well. And I've seen other places where it seems that people decide for themselves rather than the state itself. One question, Javed Jadoon Sahab, that comes to mind, and first I have to ask you and then I'm going to go to Asim Shaukat. That question is, why is the government so apologetic about this? Somebody who is a convict comes on national television, betrays all state institutions. The Constitution of Pakistan and the Pemra ordinance says that you cannot do it, and yet he does it. And if somebody, some Johnny like me, has gone and lodged an FIR, why is the government constantly explaining itself?
Thank you very much, Farrukh. I believe government is probably disassociating itself from this particular case, because I think I agree with Arif Saab that there are certain formalities and certain technical points which were not followed. And I think government rightly tried to disassociate itself from this sedition case, because I think it's a very serious nature of issue. To start with, leveling the charges of sedition and the treason, etc., has been a kind of a practice in the past as well. This particular political party,
Sheikh Rashid Saab comes on television and tells us that it is happening on behalf of India. Even the Prime Minister actually states something of that sort in an interview. So the government has a position. I mean, whether the legal process is right or wrong, but the government seems to have some ground to actually lodge an FIR.
I agree with you. I agree that when Prime Minister says that, I think then he must have some kind of a proof of whatever Prime Minister states, because when he issues a statement, it becomes a statement in the public domain, and I think it becomes an official standpoint of the government as well. Well, if it is a case of sedition, then I think government shouldn't be apologetic. They should come forward. The Law Ministry must get involved into it, and they should follow the proper procedure for that.
Right. Asim Shaukat Sahab, let me ask you, this sedition case, this FIR, you must have actually researched what exactly went on. Can you explain to us whether it was a position where some policeman has acted without authority, or is it some kind of a reaction, automatic reaction that might have triggered this process? Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Pitafi Saab. As far as this FIR concerned, we have made it crystal clear that government was not involved in it, and this is not our ideology to launch FIRs against our political opponents. We want to face them politically. From the highest point, from the Prime Minister, from the Minister of Information, and from the Governor, it has been made repeatedly clear that we were not involved in it and we were not behind it, and we don't want it. Especially, what's the problem? The problem is that this is the right of the government, a right of the opposition political parties to criticize the government and the party sitting in the government. As far as this right is concerned, it is quite okay. when they start criticizing, when they start maligning, when they start defaming the state institution, this is the problem. When there was a famous Nawaz Sharif speech in APC, then definitely it would have hurted a common man's heart, and he was an ordinary citizen.
I understand that, Asim Saab, but we have a legal expert in the program, and he says that officially it is impossible for such an FIR to be registered without the permission of the federal government. So if a policeman has admitted this FIR, it must be something that he has done out of authority if the federal government doesn't know about it, if the provincial government doesn't know about it. So is there going to be any kind of follow-up action on the man?
There is, yes. Basically, this is an incitement case, that some words have incited the feelings of the common man. If, as you are saying, this is true, that it was something about the decision of Islamabad High Court, where it was mentioned that how this FIR can be launched if sedition is the case. So I think, yes, if he has crossed the limits, and if the government, if the opposition parties launch an application or file a complaint against the station house officer, then government will definitely act against it.
Let me ask you another question, Asim Saab. Do you honestly believe that whatever Mian Nawaz Sharif said on air against the state institutions, is it some kind of conspiracy to malign the state institutions or not?
This is not an absolute question. The thing is, what message is being given to the international world?
No, it was a straightforward question. I was asking for your kind opinion. What do you think? Whether there was some kind of conspiracy or not?
No. I personally feel that this is an insane statement. A person who is 3-time Prime Minister, who has taken oath not to reveal the state secrets, he should act as a responsible man. He should not. He is a convicted man, and he is sitting outside the country, and he is maligning two of the main important institutions of Pakistan, including the military forces. And like, if you remember, a few days back in an interview, Prime Minister Imran Khan said the same thing, that whose agenda is being pursued. Definitely our enemies will become very happy if we start maligning our state institutions like ours.
Right.
So this was
am I within my rights to conclude that while you don't believe in lodging FIRs, you do believe in your heart that it was a case of sedition?
No, it was not a case in a way sedition, but it was a very bad attempt to pursue their political agenda. This is what I am saying. This is not a wise attempt. This is rather insane. While pursuing your...
Since you actually said that whose agenda is being pursued, so I thought that if we are talking about enemy or India that you mentioned, then perhaps it amounts to something of that sort. But in any case, one has to actually look into this matter and follow up on this as well. Let me move onward and ask Arif Chaudhry Sahab about the legality of the protests in the time of Corona. There are precautions that have been taken, and yet the opposition parties are planning public display of protest. People are going to get together. Legally, nobody binds them. But if somebody assembles there and catches Corona virus, who is going to be legally responsible for that?
If you allow me to comment on what this government spokesman has said, I would be really thankful to you.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, because it was very oversimplification by the gentleman. He says that if somebody who is a true patriot and he feels within himself that something like that has happened, so he went to the police station and the case was registered, as I have bought it from him. So I really wonder on this statement, because as far as the state of affairs in Pakistan is concerned, even in Punjab is concerned, a very glaring example of police inaction and indifference towards people's concerns. Can be quoted, and the government itself should know, and they naturally know that they are a worker of the government party, Tehreek-e-Insaf's worker,
right,
who was killed in just
I have a follow-up question to your question.
Pind Adil Khan, yes, Pind Adil Khan, Mr. Tahir Chaudhary, in the police custody, and so far as I know, the case has not been registered, notwithstanding the fact that he had no criminal record and he belongs to this political party. So things are not that simple as far as the registration of...
Chaudhary sir, let me ask you another thing, and especially because you're talking about this thing. We keep on talking about sedition law as if it is something which one shouldn't be using, right? The question that comes to my mind is that if it is something that bad, it's some kind of taboo, so why have that kind of law at all on the books? I mean, you have weapon, and if you are attacked, you have to use that weapon. Is it not that easy an answer?
Yeah, that's true. Because, I really am of the firm opinion that if somebody goes to that extent where, he uses the words and, which are not allowed to be used, and he is violating that prerogative which, he had of getting information while he was in the office. And now he is, he is going beyond his oath of office, and he is saying all those things which are detrimental to your institutions and very fabric of your country, and and goes against the defense of Pakistan. And the government, I have been listening to the government that this is many times by many ministers this was said that and even the common man is saying that the words he has used and the secrets, so-called secrets he has disclosed are not good for the country, and not only this is simple word good, but it is rather worse he did. So I really tend to agree with your statement that if you have law, so you have to apply it in stricto sensu, and you have to come up with a clear definition whether it is sedition or it is not. If it is sedition, then the case should be initiated by the government, and if it is not sedition, then the case should not be registered at all, even by a common man, whosoever and whatsoever feeling.
But my concern primarily is about this discourse as if laws that exist are bad laws and maybe they should not be used ever. So that was my concern.
Those laws are still on the, in the book, but they are not being used.
Yeah, but they have been changed, right? There were certain aspects which were changed, and that's why now blame or onus is not on the victim anymore. But let me go back to Javed Jadoon Sahab. Javed Jadoon Sahab, let us move beyond this point. Let me ask you, because last time we discussed, you and I, about the opposition and its strategy, we thought that there is going to be some kind of coherence. We were talking about 11th, and then all of a sudden the date changes. Then after changing the date, they realized that it is the anniversary of Sania Karsaz, and then they have to shift the venue as well. Why exactly is it that opposition, despite being so worked up, cannot work together?
Farrukh, if you remember, even in the previous program, I stated that opposition does not have any strategy at all. It is a kind of a reaction to government steps which are being taken against the leadership of the two main political parties. And the gathering of all opposition parties on one platform was simply a reaction. And they wanted to put pressure on PTI government so that they can get some relief, maybe a breather, and they might be able to sort of put the government on the defensive by announcing a series of protest demonstrations in different cities. So it proves the point that they haven't worked it out. And we all know, Farrukh, that it takes a massive kind of mobilization of the people, massive financial and human resources to launch any anti-government movement in a country like Pakistan. But it was very surprising when they first announced to hold the first protest demonstration in Quetta, and then I think they, as a hindsight, they realized that maybe it's going to be counterproductive, so they shifted it to Karachi.
Yeah, but don't you see it as a case of ownership? First ownership was with Maulana Fazlur Rahman, who was going to assemble the protesters in Quetta because that is his stronghold, and now the ball has shifted to the court of People's Party, and now they are going to assemble people in Karachi.
I think they realize that this is the kind of occasion, the Karsaz tragedy, where People's Party might be able to mobilize its cadre, and they might be able to bring certain number of people on the street because of the tragic incident which took place, and can benefit out of it. Otherwise, I think there's no reason to shift the venue from Quetta. And to start with, I think it was a bad decision as a political strategist, a bad decision to go to Quetta first, and ultimately they ended up with Quetta, the last city where they are going to hold, probably one of the last cities they're going to hold demonstrations over there. So Karachi and Karsaz, obvious reason that People's Party's political workers, they believe, are committed, and as far as that particular tragedy is concerned, party might be able to bring out a large number of its cadre workers on the street.
What happens when you bring out that kind of numbers? We still are facing coronavirus. What happens? Who is going to be responsible if there is a spike in Karachi after that?
You're very right, Farrukh. We have seen that there's a kind of a resurgence as far as pandemic is concerned. Not only in Pakistan, but many other countries. We have seen the pandemic is once again coming back, and the medical experts are warning that come winter, and there could be another wave of pandemic in Pakistan as well. I think the timing they have decided is a kind of a timing where we can see that there could be another wave of pandemic in Pakistan. And I think you're very right, though legally not binding, but morally I think the leadership which claims to represent the people of Pakistan, they're going to jeopardize the lives of so many people while they gather over there, and while they mix around and mingle and etc. So ultimately what happens is you carry the virus, and people coming from different parts of the country.
Last question before I go to Asim sir. And the question is about the possibility of this view that anywhere else, for example in Quetta or Khyber Pakhtunkhwa or Punjab, if they agitate, the governments there are not in their control, and People's Party calls shots in Sindh. So they can control the atmospherics when it comes to the agitation. Nobody will be able to stop them.
Absolutely, given the kind of a hold Pakistan People's Party has in Sindh, and the administrative control, the financial and the political, I think that is a very important point. And one more thing we are forgetting is that the danger of terrorism is also there. When so many people gather there, we can expect that law and order situation
let us hope
that doesn't happen. But I think the danger is there.
Asim Shaukat Sahab, now that the opposition is planning to launch its protest events in Karachi, Sialkot, elsewhere, especially when it comes to the areas controlled by PTI government, may it be provincial government, may it be federal government, how do you plan to actually take care of this business? Because we understand that on one side, the right to protest is a democratic right, but on the other side, we are also seeing that coronavirus still is a threat. So how do you reconcile the two, sir?
Actually, Pitafi Sahab, opposition's narrative is full of contradictions. For example, they said that their fight is against those institutions who have brought Imran Khan. But at the same time, they say they want resignation of Imran Khan. So if you have the courage, then why don't you ask for the resignation of those who have brought Imran Khan? So contradiction number one. Secondly, 2 months back, they were vehemently criticizing government and Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf for not enforcing a complete lockdown. And they were of the opinion that they should that government should cut the transmission line so that coronavirus should be stopped from spreading. But at the same time, when the world is anticipating the second corona wave, what they are doing actually, that they are trying to bring people out on the streets in the form of mobs, in the form of jalsas and julus and processions all out. So this is the second contradiction. For example, they said that none of their representatives met the COS and the ISI chief.
Yeah,
and then
but
it became clear
hang on.
they met.
So, Shogul Sahab, we can go in that direction later in the program as well.
Question.
Asim Sahab, let us focus on the question that I asked, because there are areas where your government is actually deciding what happens on the street, right? Now, protesters are going to protest in Punjab as well, at the center as well, in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, in Balochistan as well. There the threat is there. And regardless of how responsible the opposition is, you are in power, and being part of the government, you are supposed to actually decide how to handle this issue. So my question is not about opposition or their narrative, but your strategy regarding it.
Now, as far as we have decided to deal it politically, if they carry out the processions peacefully, if they hold the jalsas peacefully, this is their call, and people must learn that they are least bothered about the virus in the country. Their simple and their single point agenda is to protect their looted and plundered wealth and to evade the corruption cases and nothing else. So that's why people are quite aware. They know that they are calling them on the streets so that they should evade their corruption cases. So why should people come out? And why? Simply, the leadership is sitting in London, and they're calling other people to come out on the street in the presence of virus to protect their looted wealth. So this is something that is quite funny and quite grotesque.
So what you are saying essentially, Asim Saab, is that nobody is going to show up at all?
It will be a very weak show on their part. This is what I am saying.
Even if it is a weak show, there are people who come and they stand together. There is no social distancing. They don't wear masks. What exactly does the government do? Because it is a present and current danger right now, coronavirus.
Actually, Pitafi Sahab, there are two approaches. Number one, NCOC will definitely discuss it if the number of cases, we have set a certain limit. If the number of cases, if the ratio of positive cases to the tests conducted is increased to a certain level, then definitely will be concerned and will take measures to enforce a partial lockdown or these sort of measures. But first we need to check whether this ratio is crossed or not. Then NCOC will finally decide it.
Right. And partial lockdowns. And do you think that the opposition is going to cooperate with that?
Well, we need to see it that if they obey the law or not, because Corona is a reality throughout the world. And by the grace of Almighty Allah, we have successfully controlled the first wave, and now we cannot afford to let it go as it is.
This is a concern because we are talking about it at the start of winters, Arif Chaudhry Sahab, and the problem is that the expectation or the fear was that the second wave is going to come in the winters, and this entire movement is going to be within the winters. Now the question right now is, I mean, I understand Section 144. I understand there must be other law and order, tools to employ whenever the government wants to do it. But why is it that our laws are not modern enough that if there is a serious threat to the life of people, the government can control without actually bringing back the laws that were actually introduced during the colonial times?
There is a big problem as far as law and order in Sindh is concerned, because it is not being controlled by the federal government.
Yeah, but we are not merely talking about Sindh, right?
No, because as well. starting from Karachi, right? Karachi is not under the administrative control of the federal government. But you are absolutely right that the government should have an authority to stop it and enforce it, because there is no problem with the authority of the government. If they want to stop, they can stop. And first of all, they have to make people understand, that this is the problem, this is the pandemic which is a threat, and we want to control. And when they convince, first of all, they should be convinced within themselves. What strategy do they have? If they are talking, we want to handle it politically. To me, it is something, not a statement which, I would like to endorse, because what do you mean by politically? You are in the government. So the government has a responsibility to, enforce writ of the state and to, make sure that nobody is unsafe, because safety of the people, public at large, is the exclusive responsibility of the government. And government cannot shy away from its responsibility.
And here comes the point where you started from. You started by mentioning Karachi and Sindh. Now I understand that there are 3 provinces where PTI has the kind of influence or punching power to do whatever it wants, right? In the 4th one, in Sindh, it doesn't have that power. But it controls the federation, central government is with them. And NCOC is also central body, right? It might be federal body.
And constitutional Article 148, mandates that it is the federal government whose authority has to be, respected and given preference.
If there is a conflict of authority.
So if the government, considers that these measures are, of utmost importance for the safety, of the people, the government can enforce it even in Sindh.
How? They don't have police power there?
No, they have the power, as far as because when there's a problem, it's not a matter of overlapping the authority. It is the problem that when the government considers, and that's exactly what this article says. If there is such kind of conflict that the provincial government thinks that, the government federal government cannot intervene, and, the government is convinced that there is a problem which really needs to be addressed through the use of force or, intervention in the, affairs, which are not being exclusively handled by the, provincial government. So the writ of the federal government shall prevail.
And then what happens to 18th Amendment? What happens to People's Party narrative?
18th Amendment does not come on the way of Article 148. Because
I don't know whether you have listened to Bilawal Bhutto Zardari today regarding these 2 or 3 islands that they were talking about construction on these islands, and he started talking about federation actually violating the rights of the provincial government. So their narrative is going to be there.
No, he's not right, because as far as the islands are concerned, they are not the exclusive property of the province.
Sir, I'm going to come to you. Asim Saab, you wanted to say something very quickly. Please go ahead.
I was just responding on 2 things to Arif Saab. Yes, I really respect his views and I appreciate his concern. But I simply was trying to say that government does not want to give a pretext to the opposition parties that we are afraid of them. That's why we are trying to them. As far as his concern is concerned, yes, prime concern of the government is the life of a common man. And I have said that NCOC will take notice of it. If the cases increases to a certain level, then definitely federal government will make decisions.
I'm glad that you have twice mentioned NCOC, but that is not the only threat that this country faces. We have seen a spike in terrorist activities as well. So who's going to decide on that?
Secondly, I wanted to ask that what is the status after 18th Amendment? That if there is a difference of opinion between the Federation and the provinces, so whose will is going to prevail? Whether the provinces
that has been answered by Arif Chaudhry Sahab, that federations will then prevail.
Article 148 is very clear on that of the Constitution.
Right. Now, let me go back to Javed Jadoon Sahab. Javed Jadoon Sahab, all this problem could have been handled. If it is going to be politically handled, the easiest way was to reach out to the opposition and ask them what do they want. I mean, either you can confront them, you can risk your own voters' lives, or you can reach out and build bridges?
I agree. I totally agree that government does have a responsibility towards the people at large. Pandemic is a national issue, is a critical issue.
Okay.
And on this particular aspect, even government can contact the political parties of the opposition, can sit with them. They can form a committee from amongst the senior leadership of the PTI, and they can get in touch with the Pakistan People's Party and Pakistan Muslim League and the two major partners in the Pakistan Democratic Movement and convince them that this is not the right time.
Right.
I think you were very right when you pointed out that it is within that timeline they're going to hold demonstrations or protest movement across the country when we fear the second wave taking place in Pakistan.
Right.
So I think it's a national issue, it's a critical issue, and government must not be seen to be dithering on this issue.
Yeah.
I think it is a responsibility of the government. I totally agree. It's not a question of dealing with the whole issue politically. It is the dimension, the health dimension, which has to be taken into consideration, and the health of the people is the prime responsibility of the government, because pandemic is basically a huge disaster,
right?
And it has to be prevented at all costs.
Another aspect I wanted to ask you about. We have been talking about responsibility of the opposition, of the government, of Pembra, the police, the courts, everything, right? Now let me ask you about the responsibility of the media. Why does one feel now that whenever an opposition leader comes on television, and I'm not merely talking about Mian Nawaz Sharif, who was legally stopped by Pembra because he is a convict, but apart from that as well, it seems that media somehow has imbibed the narrative of the opposition. Where is the responsibility of media itself?
I think on many occasions we have seen in the past as well that the media managers, those who are responsible for the editorial policies of the electronic channels and the print media, have been found to be wanting.
Okay.
They have basically, they were focused on TRP factor to earn more ads, because if there's a turmoil, the political situation in Pakistan, they believe that they can cash on that turmoil or political instability, and they can have more advertisements, etc. I think it's very much understandable why they're doing that. While on the contrary, when you talk about the national interest and you talk about the legality of the aspect and the Pembra's role, etc., I think even Pembra's role should be more assertive, and they must implement the code of ethics.
Pembra's role is assertive, but it is regarding commercials on, biscuit commercials where women might be dancing. We have seen today they have taken actually a notice on that.
I think that's...
And a senior investigative journalist first actually tagged the government officials and said that now biscuits are going to be sold by women dancing. So Pembra took notice on that. But on these matters, it takes some time to convince Pembra.
Even last time we were discussing that the Pembra, when you say is an independent body, I think they must be allowed to function independently as well. And I think even the Pembra, the head of the Pembra, he should understand that it is a national responsibility, it's a constitutional organization.
Yeah, but we are talking about responsibility of the Pembra, right?
Yes.
And obviously I've made it clear that I have my own concerns. And they are concerns about political parties as well. Where is the responsibility of media that earns all its living from within the country?
Farrukh, as I said, that even in the past we have seen that media never showed any kind of responsibility. Take the example of Mr. Altaf Hussain. His very provocative speeches were broadcast live indefinitely, and he continued to speak against Pakistan sitting in London. Even this recent example of Mr. Nawaz Sharif talking against Pakistan's institution, I think there should be some editorial judgment. If you have an editorial meeting every day, then I think I can understand that we all belong to the media. When you do not have the editorial meetings and editorial boards, and the anchors independently decide what they have to discuss in their own particular talk shows, I think this is what really happens.
Yeah, but the game is so fixed. I mean, if you control, if the Pembra goes out and says, don't show this thing, people say that there is some kind of media control, right? When media tries to show responsibility, someone stands up and says that there is self-censorship. If media doesn't do anything, once again it becomes a problem, as we have seen.
I think it's a very simple answer to this question.
Paradox,
Canberra should follow whatever the rules are there.
And
Canberra must adhere to the code of conduct.
Okay.
And if they implement very assertively the code of conduct, whatever the people say, whatever the critics say, they shouldn't be bothered about that.
Okay.
So far they are following the code of ethics. I think there shouldn't be a problem. As far as Canberra is concerned, they must come clean, and the code of ethics is there.
Right.
They can implement it without any discrimination against every channel which shows a responsible kind of attitude.
Right. I'm told that we have run out of time, but Asim Shaukat Saab, very quickly, if you want to come in and give a conclusion, please go ahead.
Thank you. Pitafi Saab, this is the second example that government itself does not want to enforce any restriction on the opposition parties, because it will give them an impression that we are afraid of them simply. But I totally agree with Jadoon Saab that national institutions should act freely and according to their constitution, according to their law. So
Right.
This is the case that government decided that if they want to speak, let them speak. But it was up to the national institutions that they act according to their law.
Right. On that note, I'm told that we have to conclude the program. Asim Shaukat Saab, thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. Arif Chaudhry Saab, always great having you in the show. Javed Jadoon Saab, thank you very much. Viewers, you have listened to our participants. Now, naturally, there are many questions that keep piling on, right? Because every time we discuss something new happens, and that sort of complicates the situation. But regardless of what government does and institutions do and what opposition does, if the government looks at this state of affairs, it will sometime have to decide to actually start giving a stronger narrative. Because at this moment it seems that the opposition alliance is also willy-nilly, but when it comes to the government side, we are seeing multiple narratives, at times conflicting narratives emerging as well. One has to wait and see if these conflicting narratives are reconciled. Otherwise, of course, there will be more confusion in country, and we are passing through a very interesting time. Let us hope in coming days we actually overcome these challenges without making a state a strange kind of situation for ourselves. This was today's program. Thank you very much for watching. Take care.
Sitar is a plucked stringed instrument used in Pakistani classical music. The instrument flourished under the Mughal Empire. Sitar is named after a Persian word, setar, meaning 3 strings.